What's up, everybody? Chicago Goonie here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Within this Arsenal talk, I'll be covering the Watford game and also talking about a little bit of transfer stuff at the end, if I can remember. Going into this Watford game, it was a must-win. We needed to get on the board. We needed the 3 points. Desperate times, even early in the season, to keep on track, I guess you can say, or keep within 5, maybe 4 points on the leaders, and we needed this game just for confidence wise. Uh, going into this game, you heard early on for whatever reason that Granit Xhaka was going to be dropped from the starting 11. I don't know if it was going to be dropped from the starting 11 or if it was going to be dropped from the team entirely due to supposed fitness, you know, not up to fitness, which is odd to me considering the fact that Granit Xhaka has been with the team since I think a day or two before the MLS All Star game. So he's been with the team for a while now, and he's been training with the team for a while now. And the fact that he's not fully fit is a worry to me. Um, whether that's Arsene Wenger protecting him, whether that's Arsene Wenger saying, you're going to play a game here and there just so you can get used to the Premier League. But when you're looking at a team like Watford, who is they're a bottom half team, or they're a team that can finish in between where maybe like a 13th or maybe even a ninth in this season. But you're a little bit worried because, yeah, okay, we lost in the FA Cup tie, but when we played them at their place last year, when we played them at the Emirates, we pretty much destroyed them. They're not a team that you're going to be scared about from the get-go. So it was a little bit of worry to me that he was going to be completely dropped. But then, the starting 11 came up. Even NBC talked about it through their broadcasts early in the game, saying that there was a possibility that Xhaka was going to be dropped, but he was a late sub in for the starting 11 into this game. I don't know what the problem is. He didn't look like he had a problem last week in Leicester City. He played all 90 minutes in this game too, so I don't know what the actual problem is with him fitness wise. Koscielny played 2 games in a row now, all 90 minutes. Olivier Giroud is yet to be supposedly physically fit. I don't know if he ate cupcakes for the his entire 4 week vacation, but he's not up to fitness yet. Mesut Ozil played almost 70 minutes today. Um, so I don't understand why we're behind on fitness um, for some of these players. Chaka only made it to the quarterfinals. Like I said, he was into the team before the MLS All Star game, so I don't understand why the fitness levels are not there where they should be. I mean, of all the players that came back from the Euros, I mean, him and Jack should be ready to go and physically fit to play a full game by this stage. Like I said, the international break is coming up, obviously, and it's going to be good for us. So these players are still going to go back to their national team, play a couple friendlies, hopefully get some minutes, and train for the next week and a half until they come back to Arsenal. So it's going to be good for us as far as fitness wise that all of our players will be coming back at least match fit, and definitely fit from coming back from international duty. So it should be all pistons firing when we come back. Like I said before, some international breaks has worked against us to where we were having some momentum, and then all of a sudden international break comes up, and then we come back from it, and we seem like we're dead, or we just don't seem to have that same fire or that same passion on the pitch. So maybe this is definitely going to be good for us as far as being or getting the players that we need to be match fit. But going into the game, like I said, we wanted the 3 points. We needed the 3 points. Whether it was going to be beautiful or ugly, it didn't matter. We needed the 3 points to stay on track and stay within 5 points at least. If United, which they did win today, City plays tomorrow. Chelsea won today, so we're still 5 points off. But we need to stay on track. If you go, even if we got a draw today, 7 points. That's people are people would probably brush it off because, oh, it's early in the season, but it's still 7 points. That's still 3 games that you have to make up. So we needed to stay on track. Um, Going to early in the game, because I'm going to just talk about up to the first half, second half, the goals, and then I'm going to go into some of the um, single player performances as well and what I saw today. Early in the game, I would say in the first 6, 7 minutes, we looked very timid, very passive. I don't know if that was because of the formation that Watford started in. They started in with a 3-5-2, and it's very congested in the midfield. That's the purpose of a 3-5-2 is having a congested midfield and to control the midfield with a 3-5-2, and of course you have the three center halves and back. Um, and I think that maybe confused Arsenal a little bit because we don't see that formation often. Sometimes we see back fives, obviously for teams who do park the bus against us. But we don't see like a 3-5-2 very often. We see more of a 4-2-3-1, a 4-4-2, a 4-3-3. We're used to those type of formations to where a 3-5-2 might have surprised us out of the gate. But we did look very passive, very timid. We just didn't look aggressive enough. But once at about 8th, 9th, and 10th minute, we started to pick up the pace a little bit. We were having trouble passing in the midfield, in the middle of the park, but then we started going out wide a little bit more, and that's when it really tried. That's when it really started to really open up for us. That's when it really opened up the midfield for us, and you kind of saw Chaka and Ozil and Santi start to understand what kind of formation they're running, understand the positioning of Watford, and they started to exploit that. They exploited it right in the 9th minute. You saw that cross coming in from Ozil to Sanchez, which got us a PK. I don't care what anybody else says. It was a PK. It's the letter of the law. You can't come in when Sanchez had the positioning to get the ball. Cabal had literally no chance to get that ball or to make even a play on it. The only thing that he could have done was take out Alexis Sanchez. You can't throw your elbows around like that and smash a guy in the side of the head and expect nothing to happen, especially when you're inside the box. I mean, I've seen worse PKs be called in the Premier League. I mean, sometimes you even see a player retreating out of the 18-yard box and then the player trips him up and they still call a PK on it. Some people are going to disagree and say it wasn't a goal scoring opportunity. But like the example I just said, there's times where a player is retreating out of the 18 and they get a PK out of it because they get tripped up. He got smashed on the side of the head. You can't throw your elbows around like that. You cannot take a player out like that inside the 18-yard box when he has position to get the ball. You're seeing that a lot already early in this season to where they're calling a lot of those now. They're calling a lot of holding calls inside the box. Um, you kind of saw it in the Tottenham and Liverpool game to where Firmino got that PK or late in the first half to where he got tripped up behind him. It was kind of an incidental trip. I don't think Lamela meant to do that, but it was a PK. But then again, there was a few calls from Tottenham and even Liverpool to where they're holding a player, pulling on their jersey, and it wasn't called. But in the first 2 games of the season, they've been calling a lot of that. I don't know what else happened today. If there was any PKs called or whatnot, but they're starting to call that stuff. They're starting to really start to protect the player, especially with head injuries. I mean, when you get smashed in the side of the head by an elbow, by a forearm, it should be called. You know, Defenders need to stop doing that. They need to know they need to stop doing that. To be that physical. There's ways to be physical within the laws of the game, and that was just uncalled for. And it was a PK, regardless of what anybody wants to agree or disagree with it. Don't care. Santi stepped up, took the PK, smashed it right down the center, and 1-0 to the Arsenal. and it really opened the floodgates up for us a little bit. Going into the next about 20 minutes of the game, we looked dangerous. Everybody looked dangerous except for a couple of players, and I'll get into them later. But everybody looked dangerous. Ozil and Sanchez were just playing 1-2s. I mean, it looked great. Our two world-class players on our front line just doing 1-2s. Just like bossing the final 18. You saw, the combination, like I said, with Chaka, Ozil, and Santi, how they were just controlling the midfield. They were able to pass wherever they wanted to. They were able to, play Hector in, play Theo in. The second goal for Alexis Sanchez, it was just a beautiful play altogether. It was Ozil to Hector. Hector played in Theo, and I made this comment in my last video of saying that Theo knows what to do with the ball when he gets it. He's not indecisive. He doesn't freeze up like the Ox does, and he took one little touch and just it was just a perfect cross, a curved cross with a lot of pace on the ball, and it was perfect. It was undefendable. You could not defend. You cannot defend a cross like that when it's that perfect. When there's that much pace on the ball, when there's that much curve on the ball, and Alexis Sanchez he made a darting run right to the back post or right to the far post, and got the slightest of touches on it, and it curved right into the net. There's a little controversy for about a second or two. No one really knew if it was in or not. Alexis Sanchez kind of was celebrating a little bit, but then everybody was looking towards the referee, and the referee finally gave the signal. On the replay, I mean, the ball was halfway in. People were, they didn't know because it looked like it got cleared. Off your TV or off your computer, if you were watching it, it almost looked like it did get cleared. But after seeing the replay, I mean, the ball was halfway in the net. So it was just a great sequence. It was a great cross by Theo to identify that back post. I mean, it was just you can't defend that, and that's the type of things that Theo can do for you, especially in the final third. When we get Giroud up to speed, when we get uh, Lucas Perez up to speed. I mean, he's going to be able to do that. He's going to be able to make those crosses that maybe Hector Bellerin can't make. So Theo, he's really showing his worth right now, and I'll get into him a little bit later. Going to the our third and final goal, Mesut Ozil's goal. Um, the Ox played in Alexis Sanchez on the left side. Sanchez kind of just stood there with the ball, picked his head up. Ozil was just making a darting run right down the center, unmarked. I mean, it's kind of tragic if you're a Watford fan and you're watching that when you're playing a 3-5-2, when you have two holding midfielders, three center halves, and yet our number 10 Mesut Ozil comes streaking right down the middle unmarked, and it was just a perfect cross again. It was undefendable. You could not defend that cross, and it was a perfect place header too. I think Mesut Ozil only has about like 3 or 4 headers in his Arsenal career, but they're all good. That's the funny part. He's not known for heading the ball. He's not known for scoring heading goals. But again, it was just perfectly placed, perfectly crossed by Alexis Sanchez. Again, our two world-class players hooking up once again. I mean, they were playing 1-2s like throughout most of the first half. I mean, they were just running the attack throughout that first half, and it was just so much fun to watching those two play off each other and playing those 1-2s, and that's what Mesut Ozil can do for you as the number 10, to where Santi just didn't have that, and maybe Santi does have that in his arsenal, so to speak, but Ozil just has that. He just has that it factor. He just has that ability to play that 1-2, and that's what he wants to do the most. I think is playing that 1-2 because it just confuses a defense, regardless if you're playing a back five or a back three or whatever have you. And it was just so much fun to watch that first half after that first goal went. I mean, it was just you just thought the floodgates are open. Watford is just they're vulnerable because that first half they just couldn't do anything for the most part. I mean, their attack was pass it to Amrabat and then have Amrabat cross it into the box. Because other than that, was Watford poor, or was Arsenal just that good of their pressing defense? And I think it's the latter, where Arsenal's pressing defense was just that good. They were making Watford work for every single pass that they made. They were making Watford, you know, make that perfect pass, which they could not do. They just don't have that quality to make that perfect pass all the way down the pitch. There was only maybe like one scare in that first half when Amrabat crossed it into the box, and Koscielny stuck out his right leg, and Czech made a great save on our own player. It could have been a really ugly own goal for Koscielny, but Czech was on his line, was very alert of what was going on, made a great save. But again, I think our pressing defense in the first half was perfect. We were making Watford work for every single pass, work for every single chance, which they didn't have many of, and it was just a perfect setup. The way everybody was working hard, except for you know our left side was trouble. Monreal was getting bossed for that first half, basically throughout the whole time he was on the pitch. Um, was it all of his fault? No. You have to put some of the blame on the Ox for not helping out. Um, but then you saw Koscielny cover on Amrabat a couple times, and he just bossed him. He didn't allow Amrabat an inch. He didn't even allow him to cross the ball in. But then Monreal was just getting eaten alive on that right side of Watford against Amrabat. Amrabat was doing whatever he wanted to, pretty much, to Monreal. But that was the only bright spot from Watford. They just didn't look they just couldn't get out of the gates, man. They just didn't look fast. They looked slow. They looked sluggish. They didn't look like they knew what they wanted to do. But again, that's you have to give the praise to Arsenal more than Watford not being good, because they were ready to play. They were ready to defend when needed. And again, they were just making them work very, very hard to get anything going. Um, Going into the second half, it was kind of a tale of two halves, if you will. Arsenal still made chances. There was a few chances. Theo had one where he tried to chip. The Ox had one where he tried to chip. I don't know why they were trying to chip 20 yards out. Just didn't make any sense to me. He was trying to chip that. There was another chance where Alexis took. Um, he tried to make a shot on his own when Theo was just wide open on the left side, and Theo went nuts after that. That was like late in the second half. But other than that, we defended okay. Watford came out in the second half, a new energized team. They switched up their formation to a 4-4-2. And whatever the manager said to those Watford players, they really did come out to play then in that second half, and they looked dangerous. They finally were making chances. They were finally looking dangerous. Obviously, they pulled one back in the 57th minute, but even after that, they had a few chances. Czech made some great saves in that second half. There wasn't any type of, I would say, any type of real danger. Um, and then we just closed the game out. After about the 80th, 85th minute, it was just it was kind of in the books. It looked like Watford was slowing down because they were just out of gas. They didn't have anything left after trying to put so much energy into the first like 20 to 30 minutes of that second half. So the last like 10, 15 minutes of the game, it was almost kind of like a training ground thing for Arsenal, and just defending and tracking back well, and communicating. Going on to players, um, Mesut Ozil, whatever he wants as far as a new contract goes, give it to him. If he wants 200K a week, pay him. If he wants a 5-year contract, pay him. Even if he wants a 4-year contract, pay him. I don't care. This guy makes everything work for this team. Without him, we don't make top four. With him, we do make top four. I mean, he makes everything work. He makes our attack go. You can see the difference with Alexis Sanchez up top, with Mesut Ozil as a number 10, I mean, you could see it throughout the game. They were playing 1-2s with each other throughout most of the first half. You know, you saw Theo Walcott interjecting himself into the game a lot too, and that helped out Alexis Sanchez to where Sanchez in the first two games really didn't have that support from our wingers. But with Mesut Ozil, I mean, he was just pulling the strings, man. Chaka, and Santi were just pulling the strings and bossing that midfield in that first half. Second half, it was okay. It was to a point to where I don't know, it was like the 85th minute, and finally the commentator and finally Santi got on the ball. I was like, fuck, I forgot he was on the pitch. It was kind of that kind of thing to where we were so defensive in the second half in a way that you kind of forgot about some players that were actually on the pitch because one, you didn't see him on the ball. Two, you didn't really hear anything of him from the commentators. And maybe you just weren't watching, or maybe you weren't watching on the ball. You were watching off the ball. You were watching the back line. Maybe you were watching our left side, that was just getting destroyed. Diox and Monreal were just getting destroyed during the game. But Mesut Ozil, I mean, the guy is just amazing. And like I said, if he wants 200K a week, pay him because he's definitely worth it. Without him, we're lost. Without him, we're a top four team. I'm not going to say contender because we need to see what our signings are going to look like when they get in. Um, Again, I'll get into some of this transfer stuff later, but again, Mesut Ozil was just almost perfect today for the 70 minutes that he was on the pitch. He was even tracking back at times too. Yeah, he wasn't throwing his body around or anything like that, but again, he gave us 70 solid minutes today, and that's exactly what we needed. In the Leicester City game, even he came in for like 15 minutes and he made immediate impact. In this game, you could just see it. He was the best player on the pitch, the best player on the pitch. Um, let's see, Alexis Sanchez, like I said, he was a different player with Ozil playing behind him. He was a different player with Theo Walcott giving him support. Uh, he was a different player when he, he was coming all the way back into the center half, into the back line to take the ball and to get a few touches in, and try to control like the midfield and whatnot. And he was making little jogging runs and trying to find space for himself all damn day. And he was a little bit better on the ball. He missed a couple passes, like I mentioned, the Theo Walcott opportunity in the second half. He missed a pass like that. His cross to Ozil for that header was perfect. It seems like he's finally starting to get back up to speed again. So him coming back, he's gonna be playing on the left side. I think going forward, I think once Giroud gets fit and then Lucas Perez, and hopefully he'll get some minutes. Um, you know, he'll go back to his natural position, hopefully, which is a winner, and we can be even more dangerous. Um, but going forward, I loved what he did today. He showed great energy as usual. What can you say? What you can't really say too many bad things about Alexis Sanchez's play today. Theo Walcott, jeez, if he can play like this, if he can be this consistent, he would be one of the most dangerous players in the Premier League. When he plays with purpose, he is hard to stop. Yes, he is awful on the ball. No one's going to deny that. He's a terrible dribbler. But when he makes those runs, I mean, the dude was anybody. My jaw was on the fucking floor when I saw him make that sliding tackle today and get possession back. I was shocked because the last time he did that, he blew out his ACL, and that was against Spurs in the FA Cup tie. Before that, you hardly ever saw Theo Walcott make a challenge like that. The dude actually made a sliding tackle. He was pushing, muscling people off the ball today. He did that in Leicester City. He did that today as well. His work rate was phenomenal. He was tracking back as well. When he plays with purpose, when he plays like this, he can be such a dangerous player. Yes, he didn't score today, but he set up that Alexis Sanchez goal. He could have maybe had a goal today, but he played phenomenal. I mean, other than, I would say, Ozil, Sanchez, and probably himself were the three best players on that pitch today. And if he can play like this every single game, and he can continue this consistency and continue this work rate, we're going to be even more dangerous going forward, because this is something that we've desperately missed over, I would say, the last at least 2 seasons, is production from our right side. Production, extra production from another winner that's not named Alexis Sanchez. I mean, this is probably one of Theo's best games, God, since probably early in the early in the 13-14 season before he got injured. Maybe last year in during the first meeting at the Emirates against Man United. Maybe you can say that game. But as far as a winner goes, I think that game against God, what was it, Marseille in the Champions League. He was phenomenal in that game. I mean, I'm trying to look back at the games where he was just unstoppable in a way. And you have to go really far back, maybe even 2 years, maybe even 2.5 years, to when you can remember Theo Walcott actually playing like this. But when he plays with purpose like this, is it really worth 130, 140 grand a week? Maybe not. Still, but if he plays like this going forward, God, sky's the limit. Maybe this is maybe the extra ingredient that we're missing. If we can get production out of Theo or even the right side in general, we're going to be dangerous. We're going to be more dangerous because the runs he's making are really good. You know, he's not spending too much time on the ball like he was in the first 2 games. He didn't spend too much time on the ball. I mean, he got rid of the ball almost immediately when he got it. He either passed it. That cross was perfect. I mean, that cross was something that we've missed as well. That's something that maybe Hector Bellerin can't really do. Is that undefendable cross into the box? That's something that Theo can do. I made that comment, in my last video that he knows what he wants to do with the ball, unlike the Ox. Granit Xhaka, another solid game. Again, his fitness things, I don't understand it, but another great game by him. I mean, he's gonna once that dude settles in, um, good luck. Good luck to the Premier League because the dude's passing is ridiculous. Again, he was leading people with his passing. He has pace on his passes. I mean, he can really slam it into your feet, and that's something that we desperately needed too, to where maybe Coughlin couldn't do it. Arteta did that a little bit to where he really got it out of his feet. But the one pass I want to point out is his over-the-top pass to Oxlade-Chamberlain in the first half. It was perfect. It was perfect. He even had backspin on that ball. So he knew, so it could actually stay in bounds. I mean, the thing bounced and you could see it spinning backwards, so it would have some spin on it, so it would stay in bounds. And for whatever reason, the Ox, and I'm going to get into him a little bit here, held up, took one bad touch on the ball, still held up, let the Watford player get organized, and to the point that Ox just dribbled it out of bounds for a goal kick. It was a perfect over-the-top pass that the Ox should have took advantage. I mean, he should have scored on it probably, or had an opportunity to score, and he just didn't. I don't get it. I don't get why he held up. I don't get why he slowed down to try to get that ball. But it was a perfect back pass by Chaka. He made some sliding tackles. He missed a few sliding tackles today. There was one in particular in the second half. There's a couple in the second half that he made sliding tackles that he really held up the Watford player. It almost scared the Watford player to really hold up their attack in a way and let the back four get organized and let Santi get back and maybe even let a couple winners get back into position to defend and help defend. So sometimes sliding tackles are good. Sometimes obviously they're bad. hopefully he gets that worked out to where he gets up to speed in the Premier League, that he starts to understand the speed and what he can and can't do as far as being physical goes. But he just played great today. It's another great game, back-to-back games in my opinion. Again, once he settles in, it's just going to be dangerous with him and Ozil. I think Ozil is just going to absolutely love the guy going forward because he can make that pass and he can lead players into a pass and lead them into space. And I just love watching players like that can lead players into space to where they can identify a space open that the winger or the number 10 or the striker or the other winger can really exploit and benefit from it. And he just, I think his vision is right up to par with like a Santi Gazzola and a Mesut Ozil. And if we have that type of vision in our midfield, in our holding midfield, it's just going to be even more dangerous. And he made another cross field pass to Monreal, which was just absolutely spot on. Um, when you're looking at a guy like Theo Walcott and his pace in making those behind runs, and if Shaka can pick him out in a crowd, I mean, it's gonna be dangerous going forward, and it's just something that I'm gonna be looking forward to watching from this point forward. Um, let's see, Caucione, another great game by him. He had that one hiccup, obviously, with that almost own goal that Czech was aware of. Again, just Boston. He was communicating the entire time, trying to communicate with Monreal, Chaka even as well, and Holding, trying to keep him in line. It, he was being vocal, uh, and that's something that you don't really see from Coscione too much during the game. He was really being vocal. He was really being a captain today, and it's really good to see from him. And um, he really shut down a number of attacks by himself. Really shut down Amberbot when Monreal was having issues with him. Um, Holding had another decent game, had another good game. Again, I'm not going to expect too much from him just because he is young and inexperienced, but he has really stepped up to the plate. The one thing I would stress is, don't act like a Cullum Chambers, to where Cullum Chambers back in the 14-15 season had a good run of games at center half before Murdersacker and Kashoni both got healthy again, where he had a decent run of games at center half. But again, Mustafi's going to be coming in, and hopefully will take the pressure off of Holding. But he looks the player, man. He looks like he can replace Koss in a couple of years' time, because Koss is 29. He'll be 30, I believe, this season or at the end of the season. So Koss is getting up there in age to where Koss has maybe 2, maybe 3 years left in him. So Holding's going to be able to maybe step into that role. You thought that Gabriel was going to be stepping into Murdasacker's role, but it looks like now that Mustafi's going to be that guy, hopefully. And then hopefully into the future, either Colin Chambers will step up, or Rob Holding will be stepping up into it. But it's good that we'll be taking the pressure off him. But he only made one like big mistake, and that was early in the game, where he tried to make a back pass to Coscione, and he should have just never did it. He should have just passed it back to Czech, and it almost cost us. But luckily, Coscione was quick enough, and really, Watford just made a mess of it at the end of the day. But that was like the only real mistake he actually made in the entire game. So it's another good game by him. So getting a good run of games. I would not doubt if he starts against Southampton, um, just because Mustafi is going to need maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks of training with Arsenal and with the players, just to get familiarized with the players and what Arsene Wenger and most notably what Steve Bold wants Mustafi to be and to play as, and to get himself um, familiar with Coscione as well. Obviously with the type of player he is, he should be able to fit right in. But Arsene Wenger does it his way. He doesn't really plug people in almost immediately. So I would almost think that Holding might be starting against Southampton possibly. Um, Bellerin, another great game too. He had a couple crosses into the box. One um, that should have been, if Oxley Chamberlain made a sellout run on the far post, he should have nicked the goal. Um, on the ball, his pace, he was just lightning out there. I mean, it seems like he's almost getting faster. Maybe he's finally like starting to grow into his body, and he's starting to fill out as his teenage years or his baby fat is starting to deplete a little bit. That to where he's filling out into his body, and his body's really starting to come of age, and he just looks faster this season than he did even from last season. I mean, even last season he was fast, but today it was almost like the Watford players were standing still. So it's really fun to watch him play, especially when on the attacking end. Obviously, he needs to get better with crossing the ball. But again, when you have Alexis Sanchez as your striker, you're not going to be doing looping crosses into the box. But that's obviously something that I want to see Hector get better at. Because if he can do that, if he can start whipping balls into the box, I mean, he's just going to be the best right back in the world at some point. He's already one of the best, if not the best, right back in the Premier League. So I mean, once he can start whipping those balls in high and tight, it's just he's going to be unstoppable. He's getting better defensively as well. Watford was not going to his side whatsoever. It's like they didn't want anything to do with him throughout the entire game, and that's a big compliment when you have uh, good pacey strikers, wingers that Watford does have. Um, they didn't go to his side whatsoever. They didn't want anything to do with Hector Bellerin's side. I mean, a few times they did, obviously. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. But throughout most of the time, they were attacking Monreal's side throughout the entire game. So that's a very big compliment to a young kid like Hector Bellerin that teams are scared of him, and that's great going forward. Um, to get into the two players that just had a horrible game today, um, I think I talked about enough positive. Now here comes some of the negative. If you're waiting for Oxley Chamberlain to realize his potential, you're going to be waiting a very long time. You might be waiting until he gets on a new team, because if he can't play well against a Watford team, um, this is a type of team that you would see or want to see the Ox just boss it, to where all of his skills come out, to where his pace comes out, his power comes out. You just didn't see it. You didn't see nothing from him today. He had zero confidence. He had zero confidence on the ball. Again, not great at passing, not great at awareness. He should have had two goals in that first half. If he would have made a sellout run on the far post, one was a Hector Bellerin cross, and another was an Alexis Sanchez cross, and the Ox just wasn't there. The Ox was not paying attention enough to identify, and on the Hector Bellerin cross, I mean, it was just darted right in. Alexis Sanchez tried to get a foot on it, he couldn't, because it was just too quick. But the Ox was just kind of slowly jogging up the pitch. If he was sprinting up the pitch, if he would have identified what was happening in the final third in the 18-yard box, he would have had a tap in. He should have had two tap ins in that first half, and he just didn't. And he didn't help Monreal at all. Monreal was just getting eaten alive today against Amrabat. That was the whole first half. That was Watford's attack. Pass it to Amrabat and have him cross it into the box. And he was crossing whenever he wanted to. Monreal couldn't do a single thing. He was getting eaten alive. Now, can you blame it all on Monreal and his poor defending? No, because when you see this is the difference in the game. There was times where they were trying to overload Hector Bellerin's side, and the few times that they tried to. And who came back and helped? Theo. Theo identified that they were trying to overload Hector's side, and he came back and helped. to where the Ox wasn't doing that. The Ox was not helping Monreal at all today. It was like he was completely invisible the entire game. I'm talking about the Ox here. And this is, like I said, this is a game that you would expect the Ox to just show his potential, to where you're looking on the other side of the pitch and you're seeing Theo Walcott just doing ungodly things that you never see him do really, muscling people off the ball, sliding tackles, great darting runs, tracking back. You didn't see any of that from the Ox. The Ox is going to get dropped. Once Giroud comes back to full fitness, once we get Lucas Perez into the fold, he's going to get dropped. And I would not doubt, once Alex Iwobi comes back, that he gets dropped even further. Because these last two games, you didn't see anything from him. This is the opportunity for the Ox to show what he has and what he can contribute to the team. And today he was the worst player on the pitch for Arsenal. If I would give him a rating, it would maybe be a 1 or 2. It was that bad of watching him play. And it wasn't like he didn't have the players to pass him the ball. Xhaka was trying to get him involved, like I told you about the over the top pass. That should have been an opportunity for the Ox to score, and he just didn't do it. He held up twice. He got to the ball, he was holding up, and then he took a touch and he held up again. It's just poor IQ. And you just looked on his face. The look on Ox's face was, for whatever reason, he just looked pissed off, and he just looked like he wasn't interested. Now, there's been some rumors going around that a couple players might be getting sold. Obviously we're going to have players go out on loan, but is it possible the Ox might get sold out? But I don't think so. I don't think Wenger is going to sell him. But he just didn't look interested today. You just saw the look on his face, like he just wasn't interested at all. And these are the times where you really need to show yourself, show your worth, show that you belong in the starting 11. Show that you belong more on the starting 11 than Theo Walcott, and he didn't show it at all. Because, like I said, once Giroud gets back, it's gonna be Giroud, Lexi Sanchez on the left, Theo on the right, Ozil behind Giroud, and the number 10, then Santi and Xhaka. That's gonna be your front line. I don't understand the Ox. I don't get it. Like I said, if you're waiting for his potential, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. Unfortunately, Monreal got injured today. Reports after the game say it's nothing serious. That's good, but Kieran Gibbs came into the game, did a job. For the limited amount of time he did come in, he did do a job. It seemed like we got a little bit better, at least pace wise. Gibbs can make up that speed that Monreal can't. That's the only thing that Monreal really lacks is that off the ball pace to where he can have that makeup speed. Monreal just doesn't have that. So if Gibbs can start stepping up a little bit, he might be, because I don't know, Monreal has been iffy. Even in the preseason, he's been iffy. Um, so if Kieran Gibbs can identify that and really start stepping up, it would be a good thing for us. Maybe Monreal needs, I don't know, maybe he'll need this time off. Obviously, he should be back. If it's just a little knock or something like that, hopefully it is just a little knock. He'll have this entire international time off to take a rest a little bit, get some training in. Maybe get some training with the defensive coaches and see what he's doing wrong, see what his positioning is wrong, because we know he's better than that. We know that Monreal is better than what we saw today. We saw it last season when he's fully fit, fully healthy, that he can be one of the better left backs in the Premier League. So, but today, it wasn't all his fault. I'm not going to push everything on him, but he did have a horrid day today. But luckily, that Watford just doesn't have the finishers, and they just don't have the quality to take advantage of that. So good thing for us, and a great 3 points for us today, and we just definitely need it. Hopefully, Southampton's not playing all that well. Obviously they have a new manager, new system. I guess they're playing in a 4-4-2, I believe now, to where they were used to a 4-2-3-1, and they're having real problems trying to, where they're playing with Puccioni and and Koeman, to where they're playing a little bit more defensive. It looks like he's trying to turn them into an attacking side rather than a defensive side, and it seems like it's throwing a lot of the players at Southampton loop. So it's a good time to play them, and hopefully get a win. It's at the Emirates. Obviously by then Mustafi and Perez will be announced. They said they'll be announced this week. I thought maybe tomorrow one of them would be announced, and then maybe Monday. Maybe they're going to let, obviously they weren't going to announce them today, just because they want to give the team all the praise and, have that good momentum from the fans and everything like that, and all the good praise from the fans, and just enjoy the win for once, our first win of the season. And maybe tomorrow, but I'm thinking um, they'll want to give each player a day. I'm thinking maybe Mustafi or Perez will be on Monday, and then Mustafi or Perez will be on Tuesday. It'll be Monday, probably Monday, Tuesday, that you'll see their unveiling, if you will. Obviously Perez will probably be staying in London and practicing with the team while everybody else is on international duty. Obviously Mustafi will be with the German national team, so we won't see him in an Arsenal shirt, obviously, until Southampton, possibly even later. Like I said, Arsene Wenger might hold him back for a game or two to get him familiarized with Arsenal, and have Steve Bold work with him for a week or two to get him up and running. But he should be able to plug right in because he didn't play any games with Valencia, I believe. He was on the bench for their first game, didn't play at all. But again, two good signings, two great signings coming in. Obviously, the jury is going to still be out for Perez, but hopefully he can come in and do a job for us. Um, but there was a rumor running around yesterday. I saw it on Reddit. Um, if you follow, I guess, FK on Twitter, he made a mention um, about a certain player that you even saw today in the early game, and that was Daniel Sturridge. That Arsenal is keeping tabs on Daniel Sturridge. Um, if you read the reports, read some of the articles over the last about few days, even the last week on Daniel Sturridge, he is not a happy camper at Liverpool currently. Jurgen Klopp wants him to play as a winger rather than a striker, which is, I don't know about that. When Daniel Sturridge is fully fit, when he can stay fit, he's one of the best strikers in Europe. Not only one of the best strikers in the Premier League, one of the best strikers in Europe, in my opinion. He has that quality of being world class, but he needs to stay fit. But there was that little blurb. They said it was highly unlikely. If it's something that's highly unlikely, why report it? Why throw it out there? If you saw the look on Sturridge's face, obviously you saw the memes already of people making them on Twitter. His face when Origi got subbed in before he did was priceless. I mean, he just looked. He like looked up at the screen, and then he looked. It was almost like he didn't know the camera was on him. He just looked pissed off. So that hey, Arsene Wenger, make a phone call if they're keeping tabs on him. If the price is right, if you can get him for say 35 million, that might be a good risk. That might be a risk that you might want to take. I mean, he's 26 years old. Maybe we can switch up his training methods. Maybe we can um, not, maybe we can hold him back a game or two so he doesn't exert himself to a point that he hurts himself so many times. But that is the most concern when you're looking at a Daniel Sturridge. You're not concerned about him as a football player because he's just great. He's kind of like a missing piece of what we're missing. Something that we've been missing for a very long time at Arsenal. Someone with pace, someone who has uh, good on the ball skills, someone who can make a shot for himself, who can make something out of nothing. Obviously you want, Sanchez to be that kind of player, but Sanchez is just better at the wing. could you imagine a Daniel Sturridge up top, Lexi Sanchez on the left, Theo on the right, Ozil behind him? I mean, it would be dangerous. So would that be a risk that we could take? With Perez coming in, you know, Giroud is going to be on the wrong side of 30 soon. Um, maybe it would be a nice call for maybe this would be Giroud's last season possibly, or unless he wants to stay on it as a bench player. We could have a nice rotation of strikers going into this season if Daniel Sturridge would be up to moving. Um, but the other main roadblock is would Liverpool sell him to us? Would Jurgen Klopp say, yeah, okay, sell him off? Because technically, when he's fit, that's their best player. And I don't know what the methods that Jurgen Klopp is going with currently. Um, and a lot of Liverpool fans are saying, you know, just play for the team, you know, do a job for the team. But Sturridge is not really a winner. I mean, you saw him in the Euros of how ineffective he was playing on the wing. Um, you know, he was playing on the wing at Chelsea and he just didn't make it there. Of course, he was kind of injured there too, as well. But once he started playing striker at Liverpool, you just saw the best out of him. So is that someone that you could take a risk on, considering we have two backups, we have enough strike force. You would have Giroud, you would have Perez, and then you would have Sturridge. Maybe you just play Sturridge in the Premier League. Maybe you just play Sturridge in the Champions League. Um, maybe we work on Sturridge and we try to see what his training methods are, and we try to change those things to hopefully make him better and make him more fit and stay healthy instead of seeing him injured all the time. But again, like I said, the main concern is him getting injured all the time, and you know, legs, injured back. He's got it all pretty much. But that was just a little blurb of that's a possible uh, last minute buy. A lot of people are saying there's still one more out there. Um, I don't see other than maybe a Daniel Sturridge. I just don't see who else we would bring in. Um, Maybe a right back, but I don't know who is out there to really buy as far as a right back goes. Jenkinson just got back in with training with the team. They said he's not going to be available though until October, November. You can see Debussy probably going on his way out. Maybe a loan move. Maybe hopefully a Galatasaray will actually buy him. That was a rumor a few weeks ago that Galatasaray was gonna buy him. Possibly a loan, possibly an option to buy. Maybe he'll go back to France for a loan move. I don't know. But he seems like he would be on the way out. Obviously getting Colin Chambers, a team supposedly Hull City and Middlesbrough is the available teams that they're looking at him. I'd rather see him go to Hull City just because I know he probably would start every single game. He would be on the defensive heels throughout most of the season. I know that's something that you don't want to put on a player, but we need to put him on that. We need to make him a defensive player, a defensive center half, rather than just switching him from center half to right back, back to center half. We need to make him a center half. And going to Hull City, who parks the bus, who is so defensive, I think it would be a benefit to Colin Chambers and his development to go to a Hull City. Um, let's see who else. It looks like Akpom will probably be sent out as well. Hopefully he'll get a good side, whether it's with a championship team, or I'd rather see him get a championship side just so he can get games week in and week out and really get him the experience going forward. Haven't heard anything about Gideon Zelalem if he's going to go back out on loan. Would be nice if he went to a championship side, or if he went back to Rangers for another year. That would be good for him as well. But other than that, I don't see who else we would be paying out to bring in. Some people are saying James Rodriguez, but I don't see that happening. I don't see Arsene Wenger paying 60, 65 million pounds for James Rodriguez. Um, I just don't see that happening. I mean, it could be just like the biggest shocker of the world, on the last day of the transfer day that we just announced somebody, whether it be, you know, a James Rodriguez or a Griezmann or a Daniel Sturridge or maybe even a Julian Draxler or something. Who knows? Uh, he could just surprise us all. Supposedly he has his own little kitty of world class kitty that he can spend, and they said they're ready to spend 75 million pounds on a single player if that player becomes available. It's almost kind of like sending a message to, the reports are already out there that we tried to sign Griezmann this summer. Whether that's still in talks or not, who knows? But we're cutting it awfully close, especially for a world class player. And it's something that we need to. I mean, there's basically 3.5 days left. So it's going to be a tough signing if we do have another signing in us to get it over the line by Wednesday night. But it'll be pretty interesting. I guess it'll get us to watch Twitter, to watch Sky Sports, and whatever you watch during the transfer deadline day to see if Arsenal does make a final move in the transfer window. But if we can get a guy like Sturridge, we can keep him fit. That might be like the missing piece. That really might be the missing piece. And then you're looking at a guy like Perez can come in and do a job. Drew can do a job. Maybe more of a bench player. More of a park the bus team player that can give us some aerial threats in the air when we're crossing the ball against a park the bus team. Maybe we can switch to a 4-4-2 like we should against a park the bus team. But a lot of opportunities. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of the game today. Who was your man of the match? Who was your best players? Who was the worst players? All that kind of good stuff. And hopefully going into after the international break, this really gives us the confidence going forward. And like I said, whatever Ozil wants, give it to him.